lower the mic. Shaloha, everyone. Good morning. Full disclosure, I just changed the subject for this week, in case you haven't noticed. And I didn't realize that everybody was going to change with me, so that's really, hey, talk about making magic happen, right? When Rev Bev originally sent me the outline, I was just like, that doesn't feel right. Like, that does not resonate with me. I'm not having something come through. I'm just not going to go with that one. And then she texted me and was like, so what's the topic going to be? And I closed my eyes, and the only word that came in was abracadabra. And I was like, all right, well, abracadabra, I guess, is our theme for this week. You said it. And we hear this word and we do think of magic, right? Like you think of a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat or, cards and whatever, and abracadabra. But the word abracadabra actually has like deep spiritual significance. It's Aramaic. And Aramaic is an ancient language that was spoken along with Hebrew by our ancestors. It actually was said to be more like Aramaic was like a common language, kind of like slang, like you'd think about pidgin here, right? And Hebrew was like speaking Hawaiian, right? You were actually like saying words. And there was kind of this division, but there wasn't this division because some of our greatest texts are written in Aramaic. So for example, I officiated a funeral this week, and every time we lower someone into the ground or we have someone that has passed, we say the mourner's Kaddish. It's the Hebrew prayer, but it's not Hebrew. It's Aramaic. And it's one of the only prayers that's still said at every service we do, at every funeral, right? Something very significant. And it's written in Aramaic, not Hebrew. The rest of our prayers are the majority in Hebrew, but that one's in Aramaic. And we say it at every funeral. Every time someone's passed, we say it at every service. It's a very long prayer. All the Jews call it the Yitzki prayer, the Yitzgadal, Yitzgadash, because that's kind of how it goes, right? Repetitive. But the fact it's in Aramaic to me, and that abracadabra is also Aramaic, I was kind of meditating on that. Like, there's got to be some deep spiritual significance to that. Because in addition to that being written in Aramaic, our Talmud is written in Aramaic, as well as the Zohar, which is the Kabbalah and the book of Jewish mysticism. Now, for those of you that don't know, and the majority of people don't know, Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism and the Zohar was something that did not used to be studied in any capacity. You weren't allowed to study the Zohar or the Kabbalah unless, I believe, you were over the age of like 40 or 45. You were male. You'd been married for a certain amount of time. Yeah, you were like an established rabbi somewhere. And then at that point, they were like, oh, now we'll share this knowledge with you. Now you're allowed to have this knowledge, which, don't get me started on that, standing up here as a female rabbi. But the Zohar and Kabbalah is actually what called me to be a rabbi. I wasn't planning to tell this story this morning, but here it comes. What do you know? I've talked a little bit, I think I've shared the story before about the rock that kind of guided me to the side of the mountain and then called on me to become a rabbi and this, that, and the other. And it was Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism that really brought me to go to Israel in the first place. I was already a Reiki master teacher. I was already a yoga teacher. I was really into the chakras and the energy centers and super connected. I was speaking Sanskrit really, really well. And then when I got the opportunity to go to Israel, I did start studying the Kabbalah and the Zohar with a little more with the attitude of like, screw it, I want to learn about this stuff, you know? They're printing it now. It's in English. I can read it. I want to know about this. And I was in Israel and I was studying and learning more about Kabbalah, and then the understanding that, you know, the chakras and our energy centers are the same thing as the Sephirah, my beautiful little ball of energy who just ran out of the room, thankfully. Sorry, not sorry for the distraction. It's a reminder of all of our flows of life, right? But the branches of the tree of life, right, are rainbow. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. We are the tree. These energy centers are the branches. Christianity speaks to this with the sacraments. Hinduism speaks to this with the chakras. And in Judaism and Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, it's the Sephirot, the tree of life, that way. And I had had this amazing meditation, and I had had this rock call me to become a rabbi, and we've all heard that story. I won't tell it again. But then I left and came down Masada, and I was walking through the streets of Sfat, which is the Kabbalah center of Israel. That's where all the ancient mystics and gurus and sages, whatever word you want to call them, went into these caves. There's the most amazing caves that are just crystal filled. And they literally went in for days. And it was there they received the knowledge of the Zohar. It was there they received this wisdom and this understanding. And they came out and wrote this book, and they shared it with everyone. And it's this mystical community. I don't know how else to describe it, but a mystical, magical community. Abracadabra might be the only word I can think of to describe this place, where there's art and the people are enlightened, if you will. Everybody's meditating. It's my speed, right? And after being in very orthodox parts of Israel with black hats, I had a woman spit on me because my elbows were out, things like this. I was happy to find the mystical space. And so I'm walking down the streets of Sfat with my new understanding of I know Kabbalah. I understand that. I'm learning. I'm figuring it out. But there was this huge rainbow coming out of the light of this window of this store. And I walked up from all my friends, and I went into the shop, and there was a little old man in there, and I pointed to this piece of whatever this was in the window that was making the rainbow. I thought it was a crystal. I thought it was some malachite or some ancient crystal that I'd never heard of, just making this. And you guys, the rainbow overtook the entire sidewalk. It was almost like I had no choice but to walk into it. This rainbow was summoning me in. And I came in and I asked the guy, what's that rainbow coming out of your window? And he said, that's a piece of Roman glass. And I was like, what's Roman glass? I'm a little American, new to Israel. I'd only been there a week or two. What's Roman glass? Roman glass is what we found at the top of Masada, from where the Jews and the Romans had their last battle. And those are the things that we find that were left behind. And it turned out this was the handle of a perfume bottle that was found there. And I was like, okay, I have to have it. I don't know why, but I guess I'm meant to have it. And then funny enough, I had just left this rock right at the top of the mountain. And then I was like, okay, well, here's whatever it is I'm supposed to take home with me. Here's the rainbow bridge I'm meant to build. I left this rock, and now God's giving me another artifact to take back that's making this rainbow. So I bought the necklace. It's very, very powerful. I didn't even plan to wear it today, nor tell this story. And then that's just kind of how it goes. Look, I have a whole thing in notes on my phone, and I haven't looked at it once. Seriously. And then I was walking, and all of a sudden, 2 doors down, I turn, and it's Kabbalah Center of Sfat. And I'm like, oh, cool. Right? I've been learning about the Kabbalah. I've been learning about Jewish mysticism. Yet again, I want to go in there. I knock on the door. No answer. I knock on the door. No answer. I finally go around, and I'm like, okay, there's a gift shop. Maybe I can get in through there. Knock on the door. They let me in the gift shop. Cool. I go in the gift shop. This is so vivid. I can't believe the way it's coming back. I go in the gift shop. And I say to the woman in there, I'm like, how do I get into the other side? How do I get out of here where the tchotchkes are for sale? And how do I get to whatever's happening in there? And she was like, oh, they don't let women go in there. And I was like, oh, really? Okay. How do I get in there? Let me ask this a different way, because it's what I do. And she was like, they don't let women go in there. And I was like, well, is there someone I could talk to about that? Just being me. Who can I see about this? And she was like, the head rabbi is the person who runs it, and they usually don't let women in there. And I was like, okay, well, who's the head rabbi? She turned around. She was like, well, it's him. So I walked up to him, and I was like, I want to study with you. And he basically just looked at me and walked away. It's really how it went. He just looked at me and walked away. And then I kind of left. I went and walked the streets, shopped, ate a falafel, came back, and I was like, how do I get to that guy's office? And she just kind of looked at me like I was insane. Next thing you know, I'm walking up this back stairway, and I find his office, and I knock on the door. And he opens the door. And he looks at me, first of all, like, what are you doing here? You're a female. And I looked at him and I was like, I want to study with you, and I'm not going to leave here until you study with me. I will sit outside your door. I will cover my head. I will cover my shoulders. I will cover my knees. Whatever it is you need me to do, I'm not going to leave until you agree to study with me. And he kind of like rolled his eyes. At this point, he's like unbelievably irritated. And he goes, so you really want to study, do you? And I was like, yes, I do. I want you to teach me whatever it is I'm meant to know. I don't know why I was pulled in here today, but I'm meant to learn from you. And he looked at me and he said, be here at 5:30 tomorrow morning. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to figure out a way to be here at 5:30 tomorrow morning. So I left. I went back to my hostel that night. I ended up talking to another rabbi who was like, oh, I know him. I'll talk to him. I'll let him know that you're not like, we got you. And then I had ended up having a conversation with this guy and telling him how I had received this calling that morning that I was supposed to be a rabbi and whatever you will. And he was like, yeah, you're what we need. You're the type of female rabbi that we need. You've got this. You can handle Kabbalah. You can handle Jewish mysticism. I'm going to talk to him tonight. So I go the next morning, 5:30, and he walked me down into a cave. And we didn't talk for that entire walk. It was kind of far. We came into the cave, and I remember just looking around, still in silence. And then we walked back. He sat down at his desk. I sat down across from him, and he just pulled out a book and he handed it to me. And it was in that moment I began my rabbinical journey that I had never planned to take in any capacity. But I think about the magic of that moment, of that rainbow that really called me in, that I could have kept walking, right? I could have totally ignored that and been like, oh, pretty, a rainbow and a light, keep going, like we all do. But I didn't. And I didn't take no for an answer either, right? I kept going. And it was there where I started to learn about the language of Aramaic, because the Zohar was in Aramaic. It was there that I came to this understanding that like Hebrew and Aramaic are these, and Hawaiian, there's a lot of them, a few of them, vibrational languages. Sanskrit's one of them, where you don't even need to know what the words are that are being said, but just the vibration or the tone impacts your being. That's why Hebrew is so sacred. That's why Aramaic's so sacred. Even when we do a Hawaiian pule in here, right? We all feel it. Even if you don't understand the words that are being said, you feel it. And Aramaic's a language like that. So abracadabra, I feel it when I say it, is a word that now has been kind of taken, and we associate it with magic and tricks. And maybe that's to keep us from the true understanding of how powerful that word really is, of how powerful our language really is, how powerful our words that we speak and what we create. That I said on the top of Masada that day, I think I'm supposed to be a rabbi. And then next thing you know, I'm banging on doors and yelling at old rabbis that I've never met in my entire life, and, you know, thinking I'm going to get escorted on a plane out of the country. But there is something to that. This idea that our words are powerful. Our language is powerful. Abracadabra means I create as I speak. I create as I speak. So, and to me, that's why we call it spelling, right? We're actually casting spells. This idea of magic and mysticism that's been ostracized, seen as taboo, somehow been associated with darkness, to me is the true understanding of rainbow light. That each one of us is creating at every moment as we're speaking. Speaking to ourselves in our minds, speaking to one another in conversation, speaking about people. The word is the most powerful thing we have. So to me, I feel like that's all I was put here to do today for whatever reason. Be a conduit. Create as I speak. If I stopped and went in your brain for a second, would I be like, oh, this is a happy place, I want to live here? Or would I be like, what? Get me out of here. This is dark. You know what I mean? Because as you speak to yourself, you are creating your world. You are creating your reality. You are creating your life. And sometimes external circumstances get so dark. I've been in that space recently, that darkness, where it's like no matter what it seems like I do, life and everything is just too heavy. It's too much to bear. But I know I still have control over my mind. I know I still have control over my words. And I know that the more I speak and give energy and frequency and vibration to that which I don't want, the more I unconsciously create it. Whereas the more I talk about what it is I'm seeking, the more it is I talk about and find that, find that determination and that voice to know that when we speak our truth and we speak it from a place of love, it's more than magic. Magic to me isn't pulling a bunny out of a hat or doing a cute card trick. Magic to me is when I hug my daughter at night and I feel her love in return. Magic to me is when I look out and I make eye contact with all of you and I feel that space that's between us that's deeper than our bodies can transcend. Magic to me is when I stand up to officiate a funeral and see butterflies dancing over a coffin. You know what I mean? That to me is magic. And let there be light was said. I have this little bracelet that I bought at the farmer's market a few years ago, and I wear it and I never take it off. It's been bent and torn and it turns me green sometimes. But it says in pursuit of magic. Because I think that's what we're supposed to be all the time. I think that we get lost in this idea that magic is reserved for a show. And we lose sight of the fact that magic is found in silence. And God is magic. Magic and God are found in those moments where we don't want to see it. Where we can't even believe that it's there. Where there's this like, okay, you've just abandoned me. Do you like that? Okay, I just came up with that. That's a good one. I'm using that one. That was very good. That's a good one. But that's what magic is to me. So the abracadabra that came through for today's message, it's the reminder that we are magic and we're creating magic at every moment. That me getting up here and talking to you about magic is no different than the magic you create when you speak your truth. When you talk to your friends, your loved ones, or you write in your journal, or you talk to yourself. We all have conversations with our heads. We all do. Saphira said that to me the other day when I was like saying something to myself. She was like, are you talking to me or to yourself? I'm like, to myself, as long as you understand. Because we have to do that, right? We're casting those spells. So I'm also bringing that in today as that reminder that our words have power. And to watch how we use them. Right? And to watch what we say. And to watch what we think. I don't think Jesus knew that his word was going to be taken and used the way it has. I don't think Moses, a dude with a speech impediment who was like, God, please choose someone else, knew that he was going to take the 10 Commandments and that was going to be the word for us all. But I think our words are that powerful. Abracadabra. I create as I speak. Oh, I like it. I like it a lot. It's a good one. Look at that rainbow magic behind me, Rev Bev just pointed out. For me, I'm also reflecting because we're coming up on the end of our lunar calendar, our Jewish year. We're getting ready for the year 5783. We as Jews observe Rosh Hashanah. That was why I had to switch my weeks. I have flyers for all of you, September 25th. Hope you can come celebrate with us, the Jewish New Year. But we celebrate the beginning of the lunar calendar and the new year at the end, right? When we feel this shift in seasons. To me, this is where I feel the year shifting. January, it's already been a little cold. We've already kind of gone through stuff. Right now, I think we all feel this big hot and cold. You feel the wind, you feel this blowing. And we're in the last Hebrew month of the calendar, the month of Elul. And the month of Elul is the month of making space, where you're basically just supposed to make space in your soul for the new year to come. and we're told to practice teshuvah. And teshuvah, in a very hardcore translation, means repentance. But to me, what it actually means is just making your words and your actions align, and bringing yourself to the space where you feel good about that. Because typically teshuvah is translated from Hebrew as repentance, but it literally means return, as if turning back to something you've strayed or looked away from. So meaning we're all being called to find forgiveness and humility, use our words and find this reflection of change and growth, and set our intentions for a coming year, whether you observe the Jewish New Year or not. We can feel something changing, right? We know the moon's shifting. We just had our last supermoon of the year. We know that stuff's about to go down. How much can we make space within ourselves for that? How much can we do some cleaning, if you will, of our souls and our words and our actions and our choices, and find teshuvah within and without, with other people that we may be needing that with ourselves, most importantly with God. So in shameless self-promotion, Rosh Hashanah is coming up Sunday, September 25th. It won't be a big sit-down dinner this time. It's just going to be a service with some music led by me, kind of similar to this, to usher in the Jewish New Year. Ahavaina.org to get your tickets. I'll bring some flyers by as soon as I get them printed. But I hope that everybody will join me, even if you don't join me at the actual service. But in the place of making space, because the thing that's the most exciting is we're planning to read from our Torah on Rosh Hashanah this year. I think I told you guys about the Torah. And the Torah is very powerful because it's entirely written in Hebrew, right? It's handwritten by someone who is trained, and that's all they do is write in Hebrew scribe, the 5 books of Moses. And we scroll and we read it. And our Torah is especially special because it's a Holocaust Torah, meaning that it was a Torah that was in a synagogue. Ours was actually in Poland, and they had gotten word that the Nazis were going to come in and destroy the synagogues and all the artifacts. So they actually got this Torah out before then. So it's had quite a journey from Poland to Hawaii. And I think about this idea of teshuvah and that we're reading it on the new year. And for me, it has massive, massive spiritual significance because it is from Poland. And my family's Polish. And I lost quite a bit of them in the Holocaust. So I think about the fact that one of my ancestors could have touched that Torah. One of my ancestors could have read from that Torah. And talk about abracadabra, there being magic. Now here we are on an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, about to read God's most powerful word, some of God's most powerful word. I don't know, the Torah I think might be the most powerful. God's most powerful words in Hebrew, in that language. And just take in that vibration. And I've spoken about this before, but the Torah portion that we read on Rosh Hashanah every year is the binding of Isaac, where Abraham takes Isaac to the top of the mountain. He says to slaughter his only son. He doesn't do this, but the first words are Avram, Avram, Hineni, Hineni. And Hineni means here I am. So it's just like that. Abracadabra, Hineni. Or Hineni, abracadabra. Here I am, I create as I speak. So that's the magic right now. Never know what's going to come through when I get up here. But there it was. So, yeah, I hope everybody will join us for Rosh Hashanah. I'm really looking forward to reading from the Torah. I'm really looking forward to being able to share the Torah with everyone, because every time we've gone to read it or dedicate it, the plague has come in. But I feel very strongly that the magic of it all, the no accidents of it all, was that we were meant to read it to start this new year. That this year is going to be the year where we understand the power of our words. That this year is going to be the year where we say abracadabra, use our abracadabra, and mean our abracadabra. That this is the time where we recognize I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, doesn't take much to say, but means so much. So much. So I've got one of these little raps to share with you guys. That was the other thing about that story. I sat down that night after the rabbi had rejected me with a journal, and I wrote 3 pages of rhymes that I had no idea where they came from whatsoever. Can't make this stuff up, you guys. I wish I could, man. I'd be a great screenwriter if I could. But I have a little something that came through with you to share with you. I'm going to let it speak for itself. Abracadabra, I create as I speak, with the knowing that sometimes life can be pretty bleak. Like how I always get texts saying you look like a tweak of the lies and deception that spirit just reeks. But lucky for us, I'm nowhere near my peak. There's more to this mission. This isn't a streak. What's seeking me, I know me seeks. Here to make it happen, the strong are the meek. Many words to describe me, but not one of them weak. Out of my heart, my soul does leak. Fighting this battle like I'm swimming up creek. The system makes me want to endlessly shriek. I can't even tell you everything I want to say because the drama in court just gets in the way. The unfathomable debt that I'm having to pay, all in hopes that the danger will just go away. I don't know what to do, so all I do is pray that the light may shine brighter to put this darkness at bay. My life seems unreal. It's just too cray. I'm not sure how I'm still going about every day. But we were put here for a reason, come what may. I know this to be true, for in the ground we don't lay. Sometimes it's harder to choose to stay, so you must trust when it's time to choose to walk away. It's not easy to accept you were used as prey when deep down you know you were put here to slay. Through light and darkness, the universe does sway, giving you signs when it's time to say nay. Our moral fabric continues to fray. There is no black and white. It's all so gray. Yet there's still light, that bright rainbow ray that I know is us, shining like yay, God calling us with more than a hey. I don't believe love is only light, and that's why we are called to fight, because love is worth protecting. That is the plight. Choose to be happy instead of right. Just like the rainbow that shines so bright, lights up darkness with all of its might. Just like the moon in the sky at night, there in the darkness where some find fright. It's not all rainbows or black and white, and with this knowledge we reach new heights, because love is worth it to hold on tight. It's beyond all comprehension, words, taste, and sight. I take my pain and I let it come through, because I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. The way my body responds to even just seeing you, I can't keep it in. Inside me it brews. And it's no longer enough to just share with my crew. There is strength in numbers, the many and few. We were put here for a reason, no one in lieu. The abuse endured was the line you drew. I don't need to say more, we all know who. My faith leader friends can't even sit in the pews. Even they want to fight, see something new. No need to justify, we know what's true. In this darkness, I can no longer stew. You are the one whose karma you rue, because I still see life with a rainbow hue. Our words and our actions, the power of it all, not one of us is ever too small to respond to the one when we hear the call, to choose to move when we're against the wall, to choose to stand up when we fall, to choose to walk instead of crawl, to choose peace when we want to brawl, to choose to stand up, be loud and tall. The time is now, as much as I wish I could stall. We were put here for a reason. This is our hall. No moment but now to pick up the ball. Life can be insane, a big chaotic mess. It can be filled with agony, pain, and stress. But it is this we must choose to bless. And it is just that that stands apart from the rest. When your heart is still open, pours out your chest, when you choose to fly and don't need the nest, not knowing where you're headed, nor south, east, or west, when you no longer see purpose as a pest. Can we bless it all? Maybe that is the test. I know we're supported, never alone, all taking different paths to find our way home. Where we are going is entirely unknown, but we are always guided, signs we are shown. How much have we learned? How much have we grown? How much do we need to detach from our phones? I can't say it enough, the cover's been blown, so now is the time your skills you must hone. For you are spirit in a body on loan. You get to laugh and cry and feel and moan. We choose the pace, we set the tone. We choose whether or not we enter the zone. Each one of us magic, let this be known. Abracadabra, we got this. Shaloha, shalom. Thank you, everybody.